All right, I'm now joined by a very, very, very special guest, Tampa Bay Rays outfielder Jake Fraley. Jake, thank you so much for hopping on, man. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, so it's cool to finally get a chance to talk. So how's everything going?
Everything's great, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. So, like I said, I didn't know this till recently, but I think we're from similar-ish areas. So, were you born in Maryland but grew up in Delaware?
Yes.
That's I love that because I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland,
Hmm.
and I think you and I probably I'm assuming summer vacations were like the Delaware beaches. Like we probably went to the
Yep.
same areas.
Yep.
That's I love that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We would go to Ocean City, Maryland. And then you know, the beaches in Delaware here and there. And then we actually would go off to Myrtle Beach a few times as well, just because of they had I believe it's the Ripken Experience that's out in Myrtle Beach.
Mhm.
So the big baseball tournaments out there. So we would, my travel team would always go out there. So that was a big place we'd go as well.
Were you Orioles or Phillies fans in Delaware?
Oh, Orioles all the way.
I love that, dude. So what era of Orioles baseball like do you connect with the
Oh
most? I think every
man.
fan has that period.
Yeah. Like when I was young, Miguel Tejada, Jay Gibbons, O'Day, when Weeders first got there, like that whole group was just, JJ Hardy. And then Nick Markakis was like my guy in the outfield once he was there. And he was a guy that I loved watching.
Did you play against him when he was in Atlanta?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, did you meet him? Did you say hi?
No, I didn't meet him, but it was pretty cool.
What's that like though? Because like coming into the league, you had a chance, cross paths. I'm assuming with some of these guys. Like, do you ever
Yeah.
do you like go up and say, "Hey, man, I really respect your game." Like, what's the interaction between like a veteran and you like?
Oh yeah. I mean, I even had a even cooler one in Seattle. I got to play with Jay Bruce for I think that was in 19. I think that was his last year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but um being able to just share a dugout with a guy like that was, I mean, so cool. I mean, growing up as a kid and watching him and then being able to, and he is even the best part about it was he was such a good dude. And I was just a rookie. So he was, pulling me aside during camp and like talking to me about things and how things should work. And so just being able to have a guy that, you looked up to and, watched play so much as a kid, and then now being able to share a field with them. And then even more so, they're taking the time to be able to help kind of point you in the right direction, where that North Star is as far as how to be a big leaguer and how to do it well.
Yeah, no, yeah, we've talked a lot about this podcast about just like the impact that like got the older generation, the veteran players can have on guys in their career. Did anybody else have like a lasting impact on the way you approach the game?
Oh, Kyle Seager, 2000 and 2021, his last year, was a very, very cool year, just to be able to, be a part of it. He, he was the one, cause I was with him for an entire season, that really helped me to kind of solidify the, routine aspect of, being in the big leagues because, like when you come up through the minors, everything is so structured. And not to say it's not structured in the big leagues, it is structured, but like you're told like when you need to be somewhere and kind of more or less like how your schedule is going to go from the time you get to the field till first pitch. Once you get to the big leagues, like you have that structure, right? You have the things that are there and readily available to you, but you don't have to do them. So a lot of guys create, they're obviously that their own routine, and so Seager was a big one that really taught me how to kind of structure the routine that works for me and how to stick to it and how important it was, right? Because baseball in general is a tough sport, right? Everybody knows that, but even more so when you get to the big leagues. I mean, you're playing against the best in the world. And once that first pitch starts, it's like the part of our day that we have zero control over. And so he taught me how important it was to have complete control over everything that happens leading up to that first pitch because it gives you just that ability to feel like, okay, like I'm in a good spot. I've done what I need to do. And then once you get to the game, you just kind of let loose and go play. But from the mental side, it's such a big deal in the big leagues of having that structured routine for yourself that works for you and then sticking to it on a consistent basis.
That's a great point about just like players taking charge of that time where, like you said, like they don't necessarily have to practice the fundamentals or work on aspects of their game.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've read like in kind of recent years that like some teams have had like friction over like some guys wanting more like practice, more preparation before the game, and some teams kind of being a little more laissez-faire about it.
Mm-hmm.
So with that experience with Seager in Seattle, did that kind of solidify like the way that like you value the fundamentals, and you kind of approach like you said, you don't have to do it, but it does pay off.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I've been on teams like that, right? Like, I went from a team, 4 years in Cincy where I was, part of that young core for a handful of years, and we were all super young. And so they had to base the team in a very, not as much as the minor leagues, but very much more, on that side of the minor leagues, just because there were so many guys that were trying to figure out what that routine was. And I was fortunate, right, coming from Seattle and the story I just explained about Seager that whole year in 21, I had that routine set out by the time I got to Cincy. But there were a lot of guys that didn't. And so that side of it was, very like, I mean, we had team stretch every single day. We had conditioning every other day. Obviously we're going through all the fundamentals. And then, last year I finished the year with Atlanta, and Atlanta has a bunch of veterans, right? A bunch of guys on extensions. And it was very much the opposite. And, but at the same time, if you're a guy that has that structured routine set out for you, it's not a big deal. It's actually, it's kind of nice. But I could imagine, being a young guy that doesn't have that set up and then being in an environment like that, dude, I would be lost.
How did you handle like in before pro ball, like high school, going into college at LSU? Like, what was that a big step up to like the routine and the practice side, going from high school in small town Delaware to a giant SEC program?
Oh, that was a big, big, big adjustment. I mean, dude, shoot, a lot of people don't a lot of people don't know. Like when I got in um freshman year, because you have fall ball, right? So you're playing inter squad scrimmages, and a lot of schools are different, but for the most part, they're fairly similar. But like we had a whole month of fall ball where we were playing every single day, every single day. And, whether it varied from 5 innings, 7 innings, or 9 innings. And my freshman year, we played that whole month of fall ball. And then at the very end, you had, the Purple Gold World Series, right? You capped off the fall with the Purple Gold World Series, had a little bit of fun, put a little bit of extra competition on top of it. And I didn't have a single hit through all of fall ball until the last game of the Purple Gold World Series. I got 2 hits off of Aaron Nola, 2 hits in all of fall ball, both in the last game of the Purple Gold World Series. And I remember going back for that, like little Christmas break that we have, and I was, and internally, it was the first time I'd like failed tremendously in my entire life. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. Like, never wavered from it. Went home, worked on a bunch of stuff with my dad, came back, and I ended up, winning the starting job. And I was a freshman All American, had a great freshman year. But a lot of people don't realize that, how bad that was, being in that, again, you're not playing on TV, right? Nobody's tracking, stats outside of the team. So like, why would anybody know? But I remember coming back, and I remember Maneri pulling me aside, and at the time he was our head hitting coach, Javi Sanchez, and head recruiter. And I remember I showed back up after Christmas break, and they were like, man, I didn't think you were going to show back up. I thought you were going to send in your transfer papers to go somewhere else after the way that, fall ball ended up for you. And I was like, that never crossed my mind once. But the adjustment from, being in a, small high school all the way to LSU was tremendous.
What was that process like of building that grit, building that resilience? Because like he said, like you could have easily walked away, but you decided to come back after a month without a hit.
I mean, dude, it was like the confidence from my dad. You know, I was obviously in community. Well, I didn't explain the complete truth to my dad while I was there. Um, you know, we would get done games and he'd be like, "Hey, how'd it go?" And I was like, it went well. I had some really good at bats." Never really gave him a lot of details because I didn't want him to freak out. And when I got home for Christmas break, I kind of like explained it to him like, "Hey, like this was really bad." And, he didn't waver at all. He was like, "Okay, well, what are the things that you think you need to work on?" And I was like, "Well, this is what I think, and this is what our hitting coach gave me." And we were like, "All right, let's get in the cage and let's work." And we got in the cage and we worked every single day during that break. And we got myself to a good spot. And then obviously we were able to fix some of the mechanical things. And, I think that was a big thing for me. It was just like my dad was just like, all right, let's get back to work. And like, it is what it is. You're not going to change anything from the past, but we do have an ability to, fix going into, what's coming up for you. And I think that was a big deal for me. And again, like it never crossed my mind that I wanted to leave. It was like, okay, let's put our head down and work and figure this thing out.
Feel like sometimes like people do their best when their backs are against the wall too. It's like knowing that like you kind of have to like, it's time to put up or shut up. You kind of have to, get the best out of yourself. I also like the idea of having a great support system, which it sounds like you had. How important was it for you, starting back then and early on in college to have that great family aspect of like, a father who supports you, family that cares about it?
Oh, it's huge. This game is a man, dude. It's a tough game, and I've been playing for a while now. Like this is my eighth big league season, and I'm about to be 31. And the amount of times that you get it shoved down your throat in this game is more times than I can remember. So being able to have that support system and just the right people around you that are carrying the same mindset that you're trying to carry as a competitor is huge. And it keeps you on track. It keeps you kind of like I was saying earlier, where you kind of have like that North Star and you're just kind of trudging along and keeping yourself on path. And then obviously the biggest thing is just an internal belief within yourself of just like, I can do this. And even if it is you're on the struggle bus for a little bit, you just kind of take it for what it is and you just keep going.
I love that, dude. I think that's a great mindset to have, especially in baseball, which is such a game of failure. So I was reading that in college, your profile was like speedy, kind of slap the ball around, and then once you got into pro ball, you changed your entire approach. What was that
Mhm.
process like? And was that a weird feeling knowing that the way you had always done things like no longer worked all of a sudden?
Yeah, didn't hit a whole lot of homers in college. And then got to pro ball and struggled those first like 2 months that you play after you get drafted for the end of that year, with the draft being so late. And got back in the off season and I was came across a guy because we were in Miami, and we came across a guy by the name of Lorenzo Garmendia, and changed my entire swing from the ground up. And he was kind of the first one, uh, to me at least, hearing kind of the drastic difference in the way that hitting's talked about. And with the whole launch angle, and getting the ball in the air, and kind of just a different approach on mechanics and how you approach your swing. And so I was like, let's do it. And it made a lot of sense to me when the numbers were broken down and watching video of guys that are doing what he is wanting to teach and what he preaches. And we rebuilt my swing, and I ended up going to, I think the first time I was able to kind of put it to the test was the Rays they still do it, I'm pretty sure, but they send guys out to winter ball in Australia. They have a really good connection with the Australian winter ball league. And I went out there and for the whole off season and put it to the test, and I won MVP of that league. Competition isn't, the greatest, but at the same time, you still got to go out there and play ball. And they still had some really good players out there, ex big leaguers, and had a really good, winter. And then I came back that next year, and I think that last year before I was traded, I think I hit like 390 in high A, 380, and did really, really well. And so I was like, okay, this stuff works, and kind of just stuck with that, and ended up getting over to Seattle that first year in 2019, and had a tremendous year in the minor leagues that year, and then ended up getting to the big leagues. So it was a big change, but it played out and it worked.
Yeah, I was watching some old video, like they had like a draft profile thing, and it's fun to see like how like your swing and like even like your batting stance has changed since then. You go from like being
Yeah.
super like, do you ever just watch like old video yourself and wonder like, well, how did that work?
Oh yeah, I freaking throw up every time I watch it. I'm like, how the heck did I hit in the SEC with that swing?
How did your approach change going from college to pro ball?
Approach wise, I mean, I've always had a really good eye. I've always had a really good, understanding of, where the zone is and not chasing pitches, drawing walks. But I think when I really got, and I don't remember it being any specific person. I think it was more of like a collective of a handful of guys when I got over into pro ball and then got to the big leagues early. Um, a lot of guys talking about tunneling pitches. And I don't know if you're familiar with kind of that concept.
Vaguely, but I think yeah. What is your definition of it?
Yeah, so like tunneling pitches is like, so like a lot of guys will sit on pitches, right? And I don't even know if I want to say a lot of guys. There's a handful of guys that like to sit on pitches. I'm not a guy that likes to sit on pitches. I like to stay on the fastball. I want to be on time for the fastball. Tunneling pitches is like, I'm looking at a guy, obviously where his release point is, and then what his, arsenal is. And I'm going to pick out, in a typical starter, let's say they got 4 pitches. I'm going to pick out either 2, and if I'm lucky, 3 pitches that are all kind of tunneling out of the same, like I think of it as like there's like a circle, like an imaginary circle of where I'm looking for a release point. And I'm going on the side of, rather than sitting pitches, I'm like sitting zones. So I'm looking for specific zones that I know he's going to want to attack and I want to do damage in. And then that imaginary circle, I'm picking like 2 or 3 pitches. Typically, it's usually 2 pitches that I'm able to tunnel in that spot. And if it comes out of that tunnel at all, I'm immediately off of it. Because if it comes out of that tunnel, I know it's probably going to go into a zone that I'm not looking for. And that kind of keeps you with the ability of not trying to cover more pitches than I have to, because a lot of times guys get into trouble when they're trying to cover too many pitches. And it just gets you way too off balance. It gets you off the fastball, and then you start chasing everything. So that tunneling of pitches really helps. It's really helped me through my career to just kind of created that identity of just having really good plate discipline, not swinging and missing a lot, drawing walks, not striking out a ton. And it's helped me to this point, and I still do it to today.
Yeah. I actually want to get your take on this because I read a really great article in The Athletic about how the Cubs, they're swinging at less pitches, but they're scoring more runs. And guys like Bregman is like the king of less. He's just like only swing at pitches you can do damage on. And you
Mm-hmm.
just talked about that, like being selective, like your end zone swing rate and all that. Like, what is it about that kind of thinking that leads to success, you think?
I just think it's just simplifying the game. Like I was, just talking about, guys get into so much trouble when you're trying to do, way too much with what the guy's trying to get you out with. And when you can simplify it and knock it down to an approach where I'm trying to cover, like I said, like 2 pitches. It just allows you to stay off of the stuff that these guys are trying to throw. Because the guys nowadays, I mean, guys for all of the history of baseball, that's why pitchers are so good. Like I 1,000% believe that elite pitching beats elite hitting every single day, and it's just the way the game is. But when you're in a spot where you are trying to cover way too many pitches, it gets you kind of falling into their game plan, because pitchers are so good at putting balls strike to balls, right? It looks so good for 90% of the way to the plate, and then it's just like boom, out of the zone, and you're not doing anything with it. And and like you reference, like Bregman has tremendous at that. Like I remember those years when he was with Houston, and it wasn't just him; it was a lot of guys in that Houston lineup when they were kind of going through that dynasty run where they were just winning a bunch of championships and division titles, and they were always in the World Series. Like, dude, those guys did such a good job at that because they were, I mean, those guys were drawing walks left and right, like way more walks than they were striking out. And the only way that you do that is when you have that simplified approach in the box and you're not trying to do too much.
Is it hard though to find a balance between like not being like super aggressive and like chasing those strike to balls like you mentioned, but also just like being passive? Because I feel like in an at bat, like a count can get away from you super easily. So like, how do you kind of strike that balance of trying to stay in the right kind of counts?
I think it's just pitcher to pitcher, situation to situation. You can kind of tell when a guy is just, pounding the zone with a fastball early to try and get it, because pitchers want to get that first strike. And so, like, if you see a guy that, he has good control, you have a good idea of how he's attacking you, and he wants to get ahead with that fastball, more times than not, that first pitch strike is probably going to be the best pitch that you get in that at bat. Where if you have a guy that's, ripping, and you see it a lot in the game today where a guy has a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and under his belt, but yet he only throws it 30% of the time, which you see a lot. More times than not, they're trying to get you to just chase, 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 chase. And I think a guy like, when you have a guy like that you're facing, it kind of brings you into a place where it's like, okay, I'm going to kind of lean on the side of trying to get this at bat deeper into the count so that I can try and get to that fastball. And basically just like get you to a place where it's like, I'm not going to get myself out. Right. And I think that just, it varies from pitcher to pitcher and situation to situation.
I had a question about hitting with two strikes because, like I said, I'm from Maryland, so I'm an O's guy, and I watch a lot of Gunnar Henderson at bats. And I know he started slow this year, but I just think it's like a fascinating like topic of just like because this year he's swinging out of the zone more, he's chasing with two strikes, strikes up, ball or walks are down, trying to pull the ball, everything. But also it's weird because when it's like 0-2 counts, it's like trying not to strike out. He gets weirdly defensive and it doesn't work for him. When you're trying to like not strike out with two strikes but also like have the super aggressive approach. Like how do those approaches mesh? Is there a balance between those or like how do you kind of work through that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a two-part thing there. Mentally, if you're thinking I'm trying not to strike out, you're probably going to strike out. From the mental side, you can't be thinking that. Like, you got to be thinking, I want to get it. I want to get a hit. I want to get a hit. I want to get a hit. Like, if you're telling yourself what you're trying not to do, you're probably going to do it. Right. So I think the mental side is a big part. And then talking about Gunner, I was came across an interview from Albie, right, from Albernez, the manager of the Orioles, and he was talking about mechanics, which is this is the other part of that with the two strikes. If your mechanics are a little bit sloppy or bigger movements, and there's a lot of guys that have had a lot of success with very big movements that it works for, and they're just incredibly talented. But when the mechanics are a little bit out of whack and a little bit sloppy, your head's moving a little bit, you're kind of rushing toward the baseball rather than kind of staying in your spot or in the phone booth, as I would say. Everything speeds up on you, right? And with two strikes, that's when guys are, the most out of the zone, right? They're trying to get you to chase. They're trying to get that, buried slider in the back foot for a lefty off a righty. So if the mechanics are a little bit sloppy, the fastball that's 95 seems like 100, and every single slider that's ripped looks like a strike until it's not. So I think if you can have that mental side where you're not focusing on what you want to avoid and you're focusing on what you want to do, and then if you're able to kind of simplify those mechanics and keep everything kind of tucked really, nice and tight, you're going to give yourself the best chance to kind of stay on whatever it is that they're trying to get you out with.
Do you change your approach with two strikes?
I don't change my approach with two strikes. I think I had like a two strike stance when I was in college for a little bit, but I've always kept the same stance with two strikes. But I've always, like you said, I've always been a guy that's been able to control the zone and have a good eye, draw walks, not strike out too much, good contact. That's always been a talent of mine. So I think for me, it's what I just said. I try to just be really on top of the mental side. And I think too, a big part of it is like you can't be scared to strike out. You're going to strike out, right? And it's going to happen. This is a really long season. You're facing the best pitchers in the world. You're going to have nights where you strike out, and I think that if you can transform that mindset into striking out isn't anything more than just another out. It kind of keeps you in that headspace where it's not as bad as you think it is, and you just you stay tight to your approach, and you just go up there and you do it, man.
That's what's so fascinating to me is like it's the idea of like a big like pull side power hitter like Gunnar trying to go from the first half of the at bat to like trying to launch it over the fence. But then as soon as the two strikes get like somehow being able to like shorten up and like change his whole swing and just like try to put the ball in play. I feel like obviously the great hitters can do that, but like when pitchers know your tendencies and know that like okay if you're going through it like that has to change what you're getting to swing at too, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you're a pitcher and you know this guy's struggling with striking out and he's not very good when you get him into those deep counts where the pitcher's ahead, I mean, think about if you're a pitcher, like I don't have to be pretty with these pitches. Like I just got to rip them. So it sucks from the hitting side because those pitchers just have the utmost confidence, and it's like, and now the catchers these days are so good that I can rip this in the ground and I know it's going to be blocked, and most likely he's probably going to be swinging at it. Um, so I just think, and honestly, dude, like some guys really benefit from it. Like maybe Gunner needs to like figure out a two strike stance where whatever he's doing right now to get his A swing off, he kind of sets himself back to a B swing, just to, again, like I was saying a couple minutes ago, to where you can kind of simplify that mechanical side to where you don't feel like you're. And again, I haven't watched him enough, so I don't know if he's diving at the ball or whatever the case may be. But more times than not, guys' heads are moving a little bit too much, and because of that, they're diving toward the baseball, so everything speeds up on them. But some guys, like a Bo Bichette, some guys get a two strike approach and it works for them. So maybe that's something that he could dabble with, and it could help him with that aspect of the game.
You're smoked a double with two strikes off Kevin Gausman last night too. So yeah, like you were talking about, like two strikes that's nothing for you.
Yeah. Well, he also struck me out in my next two at bats off of him. But again, that goes back to like being okay with striking out, because like I'll take you through a perfect scenario of the mindset that I have in the box. A guy like Gosman's a little rare. Guy's a two pitch guy as a starter for a lefty, right? For a righty, he's throwing that slider. Well, and he actually threw the slider more to lefties yesterday than I've ever seen before. But with him, especially with two strikes, like I'm eliminating the whole bottom half of the zone because he has the splitter that is just, I mean, dude, it's nasty. It's so hard to stay off of when he executes it how he needs to execute it. And first to bat got to two strikes, I eliminate the bottom. Every time I face him, I get to two strikes, I eliminate the bottom of the zone. Like that tunnel that I'm talking about, I raise it, right? Because if I see that splitter start like in that, like if I kept that tunnel where I keep it in the earlier counts with two strikes, where that splitter tunnels out of, it's a ball down. So I'm swinging over it every single time. And with two strikes, I raise it, right? Because I know what he wants to do at two strikes typically, and that's get that splitter buried, get you to swing over top of it. And first to bat, two strikes, I raise that tunnel, and he throws the split in that tunnel, and it's a split that doesn't do what he wants it to do. It stays up, and I'm able to do damage on it. Now, my third at bat off of him, we're battling. I think I went down 1-2, and then I worked the count all the way back to 3-2. He buried a couple sliders. I mean, a couple splitters. And then again, I'm eliminating the bottom half of the zone, and he executed a perfect fastball dotted at the bottom, and I took it for strike three. And it sucks, right? You're going back to the dugout with your head down, and you're like, man, dude, he executed his pitch. But for me, I executed what I needed to execute as well, because I can't swing at that fastball down in the zone, because if I start swinging at that fastball down in the zone, I'm going to swing at every single splitter that he rips down there. So for me, it's like, dang, it stinks. I struck out. Yeah, he executed his pitch. I didn't do anything. But at the same time, I'm walking back to the dugout and I'm like, hey, I executed what I wanted to execute, but it just didn't go my way. But that's the way that you have to carry the game, because if I didn't have that approach, like, I'm probably not going to get a hit in my first at bat, because there were a couple of splitters that he threw down that I laid off of. But it's because I raised that tunnel, right? And so, like, you got to have that approach off a guy like that.
I love this conversation. I think people are going to find a lot of value in your approach and the way you attack at bats. Do you also get that same sense of like when you have a super long at bat that like, regardless of the outcome, if you can work the pitch count or like foul off like 10 foul balls or something, like, does that also give you a sense of like, regardless of the outcome, like I still did what I was supposed to do?
Yeah, of course. I mean, because at the end of the day, you just want to have quality at bats, right? And when you can put together quality at bats consistently over the longevity of the season, you're going to be in a good spot when you come to the end of the year. So I think little wins like that are huge, and you have to take all those little wins. Like a little win of what I was just talking about with that last at bat off of Gosman. Yeah, it's a strikeout, but I executed what I wanted to execute. So mentally, I'm in a good spot. And then two, when you're having a long at bat like that off of a guy, you're seeing all of his pitches, right? So especially if it's an at bat earlier in the game, even if the outcome didn't go your way, you're still able to come back to the dugout and be like, okay, I'm gonna have possibly definitely one, possibly two more at bats off of this guy, and I've already seen all his pitches, so you feel a little bit more comfortable with what his pitch shapes are looking like in the box, what he's looking like on that specific day with certain pitches, and just having a little bit more confidence of, okay, like he doesn't have anything that's going to surprise me my next at bat.
Like that. Yeah. First at bat, try to work a long one.
Mm-hmm.
You played for a couple years with one of my favorite players of all time, Joey Votto, the Prince of Patience, who did such a great job of like being able to work those walks, but also still having the power to launch it. What did you learn and take away from your time playing with Joey and Cincy?
Just how incredibly good he was at just constantly adjusting to what he was feeling and then how they were attacking him. He had an incredible baseball mind, obviously, incredible career, but just being able to watch him just be so in tune with how he was feeling in the box and what he wanted to do, whether it was like subtle changes or big changes that he was making throughout the season, that was just, like I always like to think of it as like he thought about like his at bat. I don't know. He never said anything about this, so I'm not saying he thought about it like this, but like from the outside, watching his at bats consistently through a season, it's like he was like in a constant like boxing match with the pitcher, and it was just like, okay, they laid a punch. Okay, now I'm going to lay a punch, and it was just like in a constant like adjustment to what he was doing and how he was trying to be on the offensive side in the box with the pitchers, which I thought was really cool, because it's just, guy's Hall of Fame career, and there's a reason for it, and I think that was a big reason for it.
Yeah. Especially like in the time frame that you played with him too, because like I think early on in his career, I think he was more focused about like the on base percentage and like home runs are cool, but like wasn't necessarily his thing. But I remember when he came back, maybe it was 23, like his first game back, he hits the home run, like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like what did so what can people take away from his approach, like you said, like punching and counter punching, the way he sees pitchers, like do you think that there's like things that like, or maybe some you haven't mentioned yet that like you really appreciated about it?
Uh, I mean, I really appreciated how much, which it helps when you have a career like he's had and had so much success, but just the confidence that he had, man. I felt like no matter who he was facing, it was like, dude, I'm gonna beat this guy. And I feel like it never wavered, even in the, back end of his career, which I was playing with him, when I was playing with him, like it that never wavered. Um, even like I remember like him being, not in the starting lineup for, a handful of times when DB wasn't starting him. And he was just like, dude, I can crush this guy. Like I know how this guy's gonna beat me. I know how to attack back at him. And it's like just I appreciated just how much confidence he had in what he knew he was capable of doing, and even if it was in a time, because a handful of those times that he's talking like that, like he's not playing very well. And I think that, as a hitter, you appreciate that because it's like, man, like it's such a tough game. But when you can, get yourself into a mindset where regardless of what happened the last day, I'm waking up with that same mentality. Um, it's just the ultimate recipe for success.
I always would see pictures of him with like Ellie with like an iPad in between them, just like going through at bats and stuff. Was he known to just do that with everybody? Like, did you ever have like a hitting session mid game with him?
Yeah, he would. I mean, he would do it with certain guys, and like, and especially if you, grab the iPad and you went up to him and asked him the question, and he would break it down with you on like, what were you thinking in that, in that exact moment of what he was going to attack you with, and how you executed it, how it ended up. But yeah, he was always very vocal and always willing to just like talk through at bats. I mean, he's a baseball dude, man. Like you get him talking about baseball, he's not going to stop.
Did you like his dry sense of humor?
Oh, dude, he was a trip in the locker room. He was a funny dude, man. Very, very intense, but also just very, very funny.
Was there a point because people with that sense of humor, like sometimes the jokes might go over your head. Like I struggle with this, like picking up on it, but like after spending enough time with him, did you learn to like love the way he like just cracks jokes and like makes little like jokes about stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, like you said, his dry sense of humor, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but like once you get to know like the personality of Joey, it's really funny, especially just like being on the road with him and being on the bus with all the guys, and obviously being in the locker room. I mean, we're around these guys more than we're with our family for, 8 months out of the year. So, once you get to know his personality, man, it's dude, he's like I said, he's a trip. He's a lot of fun to be around. Really fun clubhouse guy, keeps everything light. Loves to mess around with dudes. So it was a blast playing with him.
Does anything he said do you stand out? Like, what's the funniest thing he's ever or you've ever witnessed from
Oh,
Joey?
yeah, I can't remember. That's something specifically funny. I mean, I always used to enjoy like his little like banters with like fans when he was messing around with them like in game. Like I remember a few times with him like going for a foul ball down the line or something and like messing around with certain people. Um, he would always mess around with some of our media guys. When they would ask him for like interviews and stuff, like just kind of like acting like a hard head and like, nah, I don't want to do that. And they're just like, oh, okay, Joey, we'll leave you alone. He's like, no, dude, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
See, yeah. So they people with that sense of humor, they know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, it's most time it goes over people's heads. I love that. Yeah, it's just every time somebody's played with him, there's always some fun like little thing. But yeah, I think I don't even know what he's doing. He might be doing media stuff now. I feel like I haven't seen him that often post career, but he needs to be out there more. I feel like I was scared if when Joey retired that he would just like go off in like the Amazon rainforest and we never see him ever again. So um
I think he'd be a great media guy.
yeah, like color commentary, put him in the booth, just yeah, cracking jokes with somebody. Yeah, it's that we as fans we need that. It's like Zach Greinke. I feel like I haven't seen anything from Zach Greinke. What is he doing? I need
Yeah.
to see what he's up to.
Yeah, I think those guys would be perfect for those roles.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about your time in Cincinnati. I know that like, and this is even going back to like when you played in Seattle, that just like, injuries were a common theme, especially like in 21 and, the first part of 22 there. And you've been super open about just like the times that like, in your struggles with mental health. Can you describe kind of like, especially in 22, like what kind of mental place you were in and like how you kind of fought back against everything that was going on?
Yeah, 22 was a really tough year. I'd been dealing with in previous years, like even when I first got to pro ball with the Rays, my left foot would always give me problems. I would, I think at this like today, I've fractured my sesamoid bone in that left foot 3 times. Like so much so that they told me if I fracture it one more time, I'm gonna have to get it removed. And it's just like things that just keep popping up, and it's just like one of those things where again, like it's sports, everybody's going to get hurt. You play long enough, you're going to have things that happen and things that go on. And 22 dealt with like some like knee stuff that was lingering, and they were, told me, hey, let's go down and just give you rest. Like let's figure it out. We don't want this thing to balloon into a whole season. And so I listened, and I was on board with it as well. And we went in and got it rested up, went on my rehab. I was 1 game away from coming back and had a really good rehab. It was my last game. I had already had 2 hits in the game. It started raining in Louisville. And our trainer was like, hey, I know you're set for one more inning, but like, dude, you already got 2 hits. You're hitting like 400 on your rehab. Like, let's just, you're good. And there was a lefty on the mound. It was I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Bubic from Kansas City, the
Yep.
lefty,
Bubich, I think.
Bubic. And I was like, nah, let me get one more at bat. I want to get it. I want to get another at bat off the lefty. And he was like, are you sure? And it's raining, like it's not pouring, but we're still playing and it's raining. Everything's wet. And I'm like, hey, let me just get one more. So I go up there and first pitch, rip a single up the middle, 3 hits, feeling great. I'm going to get to first base, get, taken out. We're going to head back to Cincy. And I go and I round first base hard. And when I hit first base, my foot slides on top of the bag and I had to like catch myself weird. And this was the last time that I ended up fracturing that sesamoid in the last at bat of that rehab. And I knew I did it right away. And I ended up coming back in. I told him, like, hey, I'm pretty sure I fractured this bone again. It feels exactly like I did the last 2 times I did it. And we ended up, like, all right, let's go get it checked out. Ended up being that, and ended up being, put, or staying on the IL, and had to go through a whole nother rehab. And I remember being at home rehabbing it. And I remember like I was like, dude, I'm done. Like I don't want to do this anymore. Like this is unbelievable. I can't stay healthy to save my life. And again, and it's one of those things where it's like I'm not doing anything wrong, right? It's not like I'm having like chronic soft tissue injuries because I'm not taking care of my body properly or warming up properly, nutrition, all those things. It's just like freak things that just, that just happen. And um I was like done. I'm like, dude, I do not want to play. I remember having a conversation with my agent, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I got to start thinking about something else. Like, this isn't a recipe for success. And he was like, all right, let's relax, And he started bringing up this name of a guy that they had brought into the office to help with the agency, and just kind of talk through like, like discipline stuff and structure and mental stuff. And he was like, his name's Brian Kane. He was like, why don't you hop on a call with Brian? And he was like, dude, just out of respect for me, I know in the headspace that you're in, I know you don't want to do this. And I fought back, and I'm like, this is not for me. I don't want to talk to a mental coach. And he's like, just out of respect, we've been working together for a while. Just give him 30 minutes for me. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I'll get on the call with him for 30 minutes. And got on the call with Kane. And within 10 minutes of being on the call with Kane, I was like, I'm all in. I was like, I don't care how much it costs. Let's do it. And dude, it was the best decision I ever made. And I spent that whole rehab for the foot just learning all the content that he has, and learning just how to be a professional, man, like how to mentally just be the competitor that I've always knew, you know, that I could be. But really learning not just talking, but like learning tools of how to like practically apply, you know, things to where it just sets me up to be in a good headspace. And came back after those months of being off with the crazy stuff that happened, and I came back, and in that second half of 22 I was like one of the best hitters in baseball in 22. And I remember going back that off season and just being like, man, like this stuff works. Like this mental performance stuff actually works. And I still work with him to this day. And it completely changed the trajectory of my career. I truly believe that's the reason why I'm still, playing here in my eighth big league season at, about to be 31 years old and not out of the game like I thought I was going to be at that moment. Um, and I mean, and it's transcended into a lot of personal stuff that I've had to walk through with my family, specifically to my daughter. And uh, like I always tell Kaner, like, man, I back in 22, I remember hiring you on, and I thought it was for baseball, but little did I know that it was going to be for all the stuff that we had to walk through with my daughter. Just being on the side of understanding like what's in my control, what's not, and just how to go through day to day stuff and struggles, and just be and not only the competitor that I need to be, but also the father and the husband and the friend that I need to be, and just how to show up as that best version of myself with the situation that I'm in, that I need to be that best version of myself. So it changed my life.
I love that, dude. Yeah, I love how open you've been about this stuff because I think it's super important, especially for athletes and men, to just be able to like, have the ability to speak on these issues that sometimes like you might want to just like push down. How are you able to get past some of those like initial hesitancies when it came to like, one, being open to accepting help, but then two, like, the years after that to be like, somebody who's pretty open about this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, like I think a big part of it was being open about it because I knew it worked. And being in a clubhouse, so many different clubhouses over the years, like a lot of guys are struggling. Um, and when you're around guys more than you're around, your family for 8 months, like you can tell, right? You can tell when a guy's putting on a face. And um I think that, when I realized how much this stuff benefited me, I was like, man, I need to talk about this stuff because I just, if even if it could be one extra guy in the clubhouse that can really get a benefit from this and help them, like I want to be that voice of just like, hey, this is the direction that you should go, and it actually works. And I think that's kind of like what pushed me to just be very open about it and talk about it. And two, I just like it, man. Like it's like I got a passion for it. It's because it again, like talking about what I was just talking about, it doesn't just apply to baseball. Like it's all walks of life. Um and to be able to be in a position like I'm in where you get attention from reporters, and you're these stories get put out, and people read them from all parts of the world and all walks of life. I was like, man, not only from the guys within this clubhouse, but also like if there's a dad that's struggling with whatever, the fact that I'm able to talk about it and he's able to see an article or an interview that I'm talking about this stuff, if it can help that guy, then I want to be open about it and talk about it.
Yeah, no, thanks for all done for the mental health community. I think like you said, like just talking about it and just like being somebody who can act like be a source of inspiration for some people out there. I think is a really really cool thing. So I definitely want to ask about that. But I also the first game back off of that in 22 to hit the home run. How did that feel to like have like the culmination of everything that you had been through and still come back and you're like, you know what, the hitting thing's still here?
Yeah. And again, that's the mental reps. I mean, I still do it to this day. It's the mental imagery. That first game back, I think I had 3 hits, and the homer was the one that capped it off for the third hit against the Orioles. And it was just like, dude, the amount of mental at bats that I took leading up to that game was more than I can count. And it was just like getting back in the box, and it was like I hadn't even left. And I still do it to this day. Like we just ran into a few of I think we had like 5 straight lefties over the last 5 days. And then I had a little bit of a illness when we first got to Boston. So that first day in Boston, I was unavailable. So that added another wrench in it. But I ended up being like 5 days without playing. And then yesterday I was able to get in there and I have a good game. And it's just a link to that mental imagery where it's like I can take these mental at bats even if I'm not in the lineup because of X, Y, and Z. And when you do finally get, back into the lineup and back into the run of things, you feel like you never even left.
I love that. And speaking of home runs, where does the home run you hit out of PNC Park rank in your all-time moments?
I think it's number two. And I'll say number two because I hit one onto Utah Street. So I got a plaque out in Baltimore. And I grew up an Orioles fan. So I got to put that as number one.
Oh my gosh! I next time I go to the yard, I'm gonna have to find that. That's
Yeah,
that's the coolest thing ever.
it's actually a really cool one too, because you know how they have the car out there, like
Mm.
the old style car. So I hit the front fender of that car. So when you go, you can see the dent that I put in the car, and then my plaque is like right underneath it.
Do you remember as a kid just like walking like with your neck like pointed straight down at Camden Yards, or even trying to find the Ken Griffey one on the warehouse?
Oh yeah, dude. I remember remember walking through all those plaques, seeing all the guys that had done it, trying to find Griffey's up on the wall. And then I remember just standing out there and looking to home plate and being like, how on earth does anybody hit the ball that far?
I love that. Even to this day, does that like when the national anthem comes on and the O, do you like internally yell the O like they do at Camden Yards?
Yeah, I think internally, yeah, it's definitely there. I mean, dude, I remember being a kid and man, dude, me and my dad, I'd get home from school, he'd get home from work, we'd go in the basement and it was like a daily thing, man. We'd go down and watch the Orioles play. Um, it's just, man, dude, it's like ingrained in me.
I love that, dude. Yeah. So you're born in Maryland, right? So yeah, obviously
Yeah,
that's your family, were they all O's fans too?
yeah, a lot of them are. Yep.
I love that. So what, even though you're like super close to Philly, I think I was reading an article about just like whenever I think you first played in Philly, like is there also a subset of your family that also is Phil's fans?
And, no, they're not Phillies fans, but I have my mom's side. A lot of their family lives in PA. Yeah, so whenever I go out there, I always have a lot of friends and family that come out to those games. But there's no Philly fans in my family.
I love that. All right, a couple last things for you. I want to talk about the Rays this year because you guys are off to a red hot start. How has it been just like because this is a team that drafted you all those years ago to come back this off season and sign back with them? Like, what was that feeling like coming back?
Oh, dude, it's been unbelievable. It's such a awesome organization. Cash is such a great manager to play for, man. I've said it so many times throughout this year so far. There's not a lot of times that you have managers that leave such a mark on you that like when you go out there, like yes, like when you go out there as a player, doesn't matter who your manager is, you want to win, right? You're a competitor. But then there's kind of like an extra layer when you have a great manager like Cash, where you want to go out and you really want to win for that manager. You want to go out there and you want to do that for him. And Cash is that guy. And the staff there, unbelievable. Motor and Ozzy with the hitting side. Dickerson with us in the outfield and base running. Like, dude, like everybody is just tremendous people. There's no egos, which is a really rare thing in this game. Everybody's just there, just kind of vibing and having a good time. We all want to win. We all love playing the game. And then the players are unbelievable. We got a great clubhouse, a lot of great personalities. Everybody's vibing together. There's no cliques. There's no like separation between pitchers and hitters. Like everybody's hanging out. Everybody's playing cards in the clubhouse. Everybody's, talking with each other and messing around. Like it's just a really good group, not only from the clubhouse, but also from the organization. Neander's been nothing but upfront and the communication has been unbelievable. And it's been a lot of fun.
Oh my, yeah. How's it feel being back in the Trop after everything that happened with the hurricane?
Oh, it's been so cool. I love playing. Leading up to me signing with them this year, I think I had like 10 games in my career over there, and I've always loved hitting there and playing there. I just think it's such a cool stadium, and every stadium has their own atmosphere, and that's always had a good atmosphere for me. It's just a fun place to play. So being able to come back when they, rebuilt it and just see the excitement with all the fans. We've had some really good fans there um, as we've gone through the year so far, and they did a tremendous job, obviously, with the stadium. So it's actually a little bit brighter too in the in the top with the background. So it's been good.
Is it easier to track a fly ball because the roof panels are a little bit different color?
I would say it's the same. Yeah, even with it being a little bit brighter. I would say just kind of referencing it to those, being in the away dugout for those games. I feel like it's pretty much the same as far as just how you're tracking it and what the background looks like with fly balls.
I feel like that's such an underrated part because, like you said, like every major league park has its quirks, like every the dimensions, whatever. But just like it doesn't get talked enough about, just like the roof and the trop. Just like I still don't understand how anybody catches any fly ball there with a white roof and a white ball. So the fact that
it,
you guys can do it,
it is. It's tough. It definitely takes getting used to. And it's more specifically to like the really, really high fly balls that are straight up that kind of stay like the background doesn't change as much, right? As with like more of a line or a normal fly ball where you have the background kind of changing as it goes up and comes down. Where those high fly balls, it kind of like goes up there and it kind of stays, and then as it comes down, it just kind of stays in that same background. Those are the tough ones where you definitely like you never have the ball the entire way. Like you get underneath it, you have an idea of where it's at just from it coming off the bat and you having eyes on it as it goes up. And then you usually have like a split second where it disappears and then it comes back again. So I think that's part of getting used to where you don't freak out in that moment. You're like trusting, okay, I'm in the right spot. And then, oh, there it is. All right, I'm good.
off of that dumb question, it not playing in the trop when you are just like outside in like a day game. I see a lot of guys with not wearing the sunglasses. They'll just have sunglasses on their hat. Is that just like a personal preference thing? And do you ever feel like, like, oh crap, I lost it in the sun and like, if only there was something I could have put over my face to see it better?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I always opt to use the sunglasses when we're out in their sun. Like I don't ever want to get, stuck in a position where I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then they just happen to hit the ball in the one spot that the sun's glaring at. And I end up getting screwed because I can't see anything. So I always opt to use the sunglasses.
Yeah, I have seen so many guys misplay fly balls. Like they got the hand over their face. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, you wearing them. Put them on. Um, and plus, like, I feel like you should get those like cool like '90s flip ups. I feel like you
Oh
should
yeah, where
be.
you flip them up. Yeah.
That might be an infielder thing.
Yeah.
Um, all right, last couple things. Chandler Simpson. I love his game this year. He's been so much fun to watch, especially last night. I hope he's doing okay, by the way. But gets on, steals second, draw like he just like gets his own run just by being fast. How much fun is it watching what he can do on the base path and the havoc that he can wreak?
Oh, dude, it's unbelievable. You even think about like Jimenez, he has a platinum, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has a platinum glove. Like I think it was Chan's second hit. He hits a weak ground ball, and Jimenez comes across the middle, and he goes to field it, and you can tell like he's got to rush the throw, right? Because it was a slow ground ball. And he ends up like having a split second hesitation getting the ball out of his glove, and it's because his internal clock has been rushed because he knows Chandler's running, and Chandler ends up getting a hit out of it. And it's like that happens so much with him, and it's just crazy because all the guy has to do is just put the ball in play, and you have a guy that has a platinum glove. I mean, this guy is the best of the best when it comes to defending, and like even those guys are struggling to be able to like make the play on a guy like that. So it's just, dude, it's a special talent, and he's an incredible dude, incredible worker. And just being able to watch it night in and night out is something special.
Yeah, I turned it on last night. He was on first base and he like called out a balk. I've never seen that where like whoever was
Yeah,
pitching like kind of wiggled his hips like very. He's just like, hey, that's
yeah,
I've never
yeah,
seen that before.
yeah.
He's
Gosman,
so in
yeah,
tune.
yeah. He flinched like twice. Everybody saw it. Obviously, Chandler saw it. You saw the video with him, And umpire didn't call it. And because he disengaged, it ended up being the third time. So he ended up getting second base anyway. So it worked out. And then that's what turned into him stealing third base. And then the throw was,
Yep.
into left field. And then we get another run. And it's like that, dude, that's what dude, he creates chaos everywhere he goes on the baseball field.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch. Have you ever just like because do you think because obviously speed's a big part of your game, but then do you watch Chandler and you're like, well, I'm not even on the same level as this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm like, dude, I'm not even on the same, like not even close to this dude. Like, dude, this
Yeah,
guy's beating out freaking infield hits like it's nobody's business that, 99% of the guys in the league, even the fast guys, you're out by two steps. And he's freaking just coasting into first with another hit.
yeah, routine ground balls to the infield are hits somehow for him. So yeah, it doesn't for him. It's like he doesn't have to like smack it out of the yard or just like he can make a
No.
run himself just by getting on.
Yeah. And him knowing that that's his game and that's who he is as a player, that's the value that he brings. And him knowing that is what makes him so good and consistently good because he's never trying to do more than that. He's just like, this is my game and I'm going to do it well.
Ooh, last question. So as an O's guy playing with Cedric Mullins in center field there, what do you like about the way because outfield defense has been his thing for so long. I'm wondering what is it like playing when he's in center? Is there just like a sense of calm that like knowing that like he can get
Mm.
to things and he commands a presence out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I've played right field for the majority of my career. And when you have a guy like, and I had that guy in TJ Friedel for 4 years in Cincy, when you have guys out there that you just know have a really good feel for what they're doing out there, and they have tremendous first steps, tremendous routes, there you hit the head on the nail. Like it feels like a tremendous just calmness and freedom. Like okay, and it helps us in the corners from a defensive side because like I'll give you an example. I think it was Ernie's third, no, his second to last at bat of the game. He was facing our lefty Seymour, and it was like a 12 pitch at bat, and he kept fouling balls off opposite field. Like you could tell, like he's wanting to take him the opposite way. And they had me in the gap, three or four steps. And after like the eighth or ninth pitch of the at bat, I looked at Sed and I'm like, hey, I'm moving like way over down the line. Like he's definitely trying to come over this way. And I feel comfortable doing that because I know that Sed has my back in that gap. So like if he does go the way that he wants to, but he actually drives it in that gap, like I feel okay risking coming out of position because I know Cedric has such a tremendous feel out there to play that position that I'm like, okay, I can do this. So like it's a freedom and it's a calmness, but it's also like I can strategically kind of risk a little bit more in certain situations because Sed is out there with me.
Yeah. That's awesome to hear because like yeah he's been doing it at such a high level out there in center plus like Chandler and left like I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know like nothing touches the grass
Right.
with
You
with you.
you got two center fielders out there.
Yeah, that's the gaps and like everything like they're just yeah nothing's getting down. I feel like when it's those guys out in left and center.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, Jake, the way you approach the game and the way that like you could talk about it, it's just like it's so awesome, dude. So I really appreciate your perspective, and I really appreciate you hopping on and talking some ball. I'll be rooting for you. As a nose guy, I think I'll co-op the Rays here. It'll be fun to watch down the stretch, man. So, like I said, thanks for taking the time. It's been a lot of fun.
No, I appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you.